Let's imagine a world where everything is creative. People have unique handcrafted avatars and can buy elusive pieces of art from a variety of real-world vendors represented by unique digital shops, where groups of passionate communities from all over the world can collect in a digital town square to share their latest obsessions. This is Poco Plaza, a digital marketplace for artists, musicians, game developers, and everything creative. Today I'll walk you through everything that I have to offer, starting with a gameplay demonstration before moving into a detailed analysis of the decision making behind Poco Plaza. Alright, let's get started with the demonstration. This has all been created by me, all the assets, programming, anything else in terms of logic and presentation. This is supposed to be a prototype for what Poco Plaza can do and the types of services it can offer. So here I am walking around as my character. This would be as if I were a customer or any other type of player in this world. And for the sake of this demonstration, I've created a shop for Ironmouse. So she's a very popular VTuber if you don't know about her, and she fulfills some of the fundamental aspects of who this type of service could benefit. So she has a large community, she sells merchandise, and she also has a lot of performance and artistic endeavors, including singing, VTubing, other types of performances. So here's a theoretical shop that have been created. So every artist would get a personalized storefront and you can turn it into whatever aspect you like. For me personally, I've created a 2D one, which I can simply enter. And then it has all of these customized assets, interactable objects, and anything else that might help to support and promote the real personality and aspect of these creators. So I'm going to walk up the steps here and I'm going to find one of the characters. This is Booby, a noteworthy character within the Ironmouse universe. And so he's sort of acting as a receptionist, introducing the characters and the participants into the environment. And if you can hear in the background, that's actually one of Ironmouse's songs playing. So if you are an artist that produces music itself, we've got this little jukebox over here, which acts as a song list. So if you have a particular favorite, you can just have a scroll through, and you can also adjust the volume of these parameters as much as you like. You can make it as loud or as quiet as is preferable, and this won't affect other players that are playing at the same time. It's purely just for you and whatever you would like to tailor your experience to. So over here we have some pedestals. These are sort of supposed to demonstrate how you can display items. If you're a particular programmer or you know someone with programming experience, these can turn into a myriad of certain possibilities for how you would like to present and promote certain aspects of yourself. So these pedestals here, they showcase certain items of merchandise that official Ironmouse participants and collaborators have produced. So we have clothing, plushies, and lots of little keychains and accessories. And this is just to display and show off to people walking through. It's based on proximity, so it easily goes away and comes into view depending on the location of the player. We also have some other characters lying around. We can take a look at this, which when interacted with, opens up the Ironmouse model index. This is a page completely fan run and goes over all of the models that she uses throughout her career. So this is a great way to explore more about a person that you might not know. For example, if you didn't know about Ironmouse, all that stuff, and then when you return to the game, you'll be able to experience more of what this creator is about. So let's walk up to the shop here and meet Ironmouse. So here she is running her own little stall, sort of like an artist alley store you might see where they set up a bunch of different selectable items down the bottom. And we have a giant catalog here which goes over all of the available merchandise at this moment. I've basically just sourced this from most of the official websites or any other official collaborations that Ironmouse has done. And in its current state, the functionality is mainly for getting exposure for certain items or just displaying the catalog available. So we can go in through here and we can click on, let's say, this mouse pad, and that'll take us directly to the page which is selling that item. It'll be in a localized currency depending on the website. For example, you can see AUD here because I live in Australia. And then we can replicate this for all of the items that you might have on display. Now, up to you how you want to display that. That's obviously up to however you program it or however you design it. I've just whipped this up as a prototype to sort of show how one potential method could be used. Let's say I want to go here, check this shirt. Great, now I have access to the website and I can select whatever size and help promote creators that I am really passionate about. Let's close that. We can also see her make a few comments about certain things in her environment. For example, let's go over here and talk to these guys. This is the angel form of Booby, and he's talking about the Immune Deficiency Foundation, which is a common partnership that Iron Mouse runs, supporting people with unique immune deficiency circumstances and helping to promote those sorts of aspects of people that might not be aware. So this link immediately opens you to the Immune Deficiency Foundation page, where you can explore and learn more about the causes that Iron Mouse supports. So all of these assets are custom made. If you have a particular artist that you know or are keen on using, you can have them help you. Mind you, I specialize more in 2D art than 3D, so a lot of the assets that I've created for this prototype have been animated, but are in a specifically 2D niche. There is one potential way though, that you can turn it into 3D, but for the moment I'd like to go back out the front and show you another aspect. So naturally, as a communal and fan type of culture, there should be an opportunity to play a multiplayer. So at the moment, using a port forwarded IP address, it is possible to join as a secondary player. This is the character that I was controlling earlier. This is the character that I'm controlling now. This is just locally hosted on my machine at the moment. However, this can expand to hosting multiple people. I can come in here and say and I can see that appearing on the other screen as well. Hey you, how are ya? And the other player can see that. Type back, going, good, thanks mate. There's also a cute little feature where you can click the other person to give them a little explosive love heart. But you can't click yourself, because obviously you can't kiss yourself. But that's a little feature there. You can enter the building and, hang around the same environment. Mind you, the person that enters with you, they will have their own sort of shop and song going at the same time. So for example, because I have both of them open, it's sounding a bit weird at the moment. You can walk around, hang out, do whatever you want, collaborate, share some ideas, and that's basically going to wrap up the basic demonstration of this current prototype. Now I'd like you to imagine this will be expanding to multiple artists, multiple different creators. If you're a musician, if you've got a game to promote, if you want to sell prints, anything that an artist market or artist alley would normally promote can be replicated here. Now let's say you specialize in 3D art and you'd like the opportunity to switch between 2D and 3D scenes. That's not a problem. Godot is quite a flexible programming engine, and so what I can actually do, although it's not ready yet, is I can transfer characters into the 3D environment and have them move around the same way that they would in 2D. So here's a very lackluster but established environment. If you wanted to make a fancy Louis Vuitton shop that sold diamond encrusted sandals, or I don't know, whatever your imagination can desire, you have the option to move around in 3D spaces and have those options and mobilities still sync up with clients in the same way that it would a 2D environment in multiplayer. Alright, so let's go over what this idea actually is. What's it supposed to do? Where did I get the idea from? How does it work? So on and so forth. So I've come up with the name Poco Plaza, and essentially what it is it's a marketplace for artists and creators. It takes place online, and it's designed to help promote their growth and their commerce. So you might be someone who does paintings, or you might be someone who sings, or you might be someone who makes merchandise. Anything that is able to bring in an audience and draw attention and attraction is going to be something that you can absolutely put up on this marketplace. You might even be a streamer or content creator or something else that is creative and fosters community. It's very similarly inspired by any type of artist alley that you might find at conventions. So for example, here in Australia we have Oz Comic Con, We also have PAX, we have Supernova, that's another big one. Anything that mimics that sort of style of having all of these booths with all of these artists, and they're all selling their merchandise out the front, and then there's going to be people coming down, taking a look at what's available, having a go at any mini games that there might be. Sometimes people get very creative with what they have at their stall. Usually they have some sort of map, sort of listed like A1, A2, A3, going all the way down these separate columns. Recently I went to one that was called KaiCon, or the Kaiga Convention. There was about 500 separate artists selling all of their own unique stuff. A lot of crochet, surprisingly. I didn't know that was quite popular in Australia. But sort of, it's taking this experience of being around all your friends. Some people like to dress up and do cosplay, and being in that environment and then taking it into the more appropriate place for it to be. For example, a lot of the people that go to these sort of conventions are into one of these three sorts of interests. And often these things require you to sit down in front of a screen watching whatever it is that you're engaging, and then it makes a lot more sense if these types of people were going to be staying inside of their homes. This is where they consume most of their media, and to be able to get them to go outside and actually to a convention is almost a phenomenon, you know? So it makes a lot more sense if we're able to actually bring this sort of artist alley and pop culture environment into a digital space. That's what Poco Plaza aims to do. The name itself is designed to be cutesy and simple to say. I originally got this idea from when I visited Malaysia, which, if you know your geography, is placed between Indonesia and Thailand, and these parts are Malaysia. And when I visited Malaysia, I went to an artist exhibition called CAF KL. It was the Comic Arts Festival, but it was a dedicated artist convention. And what I noticed was the differences between the Malaysian environment for this exhibition and the Australian environment. See how well I remember the Australian flag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What I noticed differently about these stalls is almost nothing. So you still had people setting up the booths and having their keychains and stuff, and you still had people being cramped between different artists, and you still had people with amazing levels of talent on display. Just because the economies were different or because it's a different environment didn't actually hinder the abilities of any of the artists on display. You know, some people had their prints hanging up on a wall behind them in a big cascading format, and they would be sitting here. And they were all super friendly, every single one that I spoke to. The first experience was actually running around, this is going to be me, was actually running around talking to these people, asking them about, hey, what problems do you face as an artist at one of these conventions? And so a lot of them gave me different feedbacks, different ideas, things that they would prefer to improve. A lot of them were physical or logistical, which makes sense since it's a physical convention. So things like Wi-Fi dropping out, enough physical space for you to be able to set up your stall. Visibility was a big one, and that can also include foot traffic. So literally whether people are walking by your stall or not. A more unique one was the type of audience. So for example, there was one guy who was selling anatomically accurate art, let's say, and it was very stylized, but he noticed that not a lot of the people that were walking past were interested, and that might be a result of the Malaysian culture and the Muslim religion that's a part of it. Whereas in Australia, it's usually more acceptable to be more expressive, especially with our strong emphasis on LGBT communities. These were the most notable differences. There were also some planning or theorizing things, so people wanted to know mostly what was going to trend and what was going to sell. They found it difficult to predict either of those things whenever they set up a booth. I had one person who was selling Spider-Verse artwork that sold out because she managed to line it up with the release of Spider-Verse. And so if you were to take this into the digital space, well, Wi-Fi is good because you have your home internet connection. You have unlimited space because you can just expand everything to be able to take up the digital real estate that you have. So if you wanted to have a plot that was 10 meters by 10 meters, you could absolutely do that because it's all just pixels in a digital environment. Visibility and foot traffic would still kind of be the same because it just depends on how many people are coming in through the environment, but you'd also be able to fit way more people. So there would be an increase in capacity. Because it's online, you can have a server with hundreds, thousands, potentially even millions of people, and they can all cramp onto the one space because their avatars will just overlap over each other, as you probably might have seen within that demonstration. And there's also more accessibility for the types of art. So for example, if you wanted to find a community, let's say the furry community, maybe there's not a lot of furries within your particular environment, but in a different culture or different country, there's way more people. And so it gives you way more exposure to different types of markets, niches, communities, things that would be interested in the thing that you're trying to make or produce. And I used furries as an example there, but this can extend to a variety of ideas. Trends in selling would probably be relatively the same. I don't expect this to change very much. But I also noticed that sometimes not a lot of artists actually talk to the booths around them. They're usually focused on their own business, customers, whatever they're trying to establish. And so hopefully if we can establish more socializing there, even though it's online, some people get a lot of social draining from being in person and setting up the booths, talking to people. If there was a greater emphasis on the ability to connect, collaborate, I think collaboration would be a big one, because if you can get multiple people together, that's how we get better. That's how every single industry has improved all of their participants and their skills over time. So while I was in Malaysia, I sat down for a month. I booked myself into a cheap student accommodation and had some very curious visitors that were not aware that I was going to be staying at that accommodation during that time. And so I sat myself in a room, in my room, set up my laptop and started programming this prototype for Poco Plaza. And now this room looks like a prison because the outside light outside that window was permanently on throughout the entire day. And if I did not have a watch on me, it is totally possible that I could have just stayed in this room without an awareness for the passage of time. And it was actually great for being able to focus, because it means that I just absolutely hone in and smash out whatever progress I was trying to make for that day. Now, keep in mind that I don't actually have any professional programming experience, which is a bit unfortunate since I'm trying to make a program. But everything that you've seen has been completely drafted up just with what I've learned from online tutorials. You know, it's accessible and anyone can do it. Now imagine if we had professionals coming in. So the idea is to be able to set up a shop that specializes in whatever it is that you're trying to sell. You can have a little avatar, maybe you have a special character that you like to present yourself as. So when you have your shop, there's a lot of things that are going to be involved. So you might need an artist for the assets, you might need a musician to be able to produce music, you might need voice actors if you wanted your characters to be able to talk and, you know, welcome the people that are browsing through your store. A programmer would probably be essential to be able to implement all of these assets into the environment and within the Poco Plaza sort of space itself. And so once you have all of these people coming by, you can imagine how awesome the result could potentially end up. However, this can be quite taxing to be able to find all of these people, but you do not need to find them, because if you have the skills yourself, you can absolutely contribute everything that you would need to be able to create the shop. This is not a sort of deal where you have to use these people to be able to create the shop that you want to make. Instead, it's more like you can just think of how you would like to approach the idea, and if you want to set up a table or a space, then you have completely free will to do so. So in my demonstration, I use Ironmouse because I think she would be a pretty appropriate example for someone that this might benefit. But you can imagine how someone like a VTuber would benefit from this type of environment, because you have a community of people, maybe hundreds, thousands, potentially even millions, that can all gather in this online space and be able to interact, chat, talk. One of the other things that I found out from going to the KaiCon convention and getting feedback from a bunch of people, including, Warwick Wong, Philip Su, there were a few other big creators there, was that sometimes they actually prefer the face-to-face interaction of being able to meet their fans. And so I think that would also be important to maintain, because although sometimes we have this barrier between us in terms of the screen, this is a really cool way to be able to engage with the community and involve yourself in the works that you're trying to produce. So in order to maintain that, we can still establish that face-to-face connection, even if it was just like, their face cam being in the corner of the screen while people walked around and shopped for different items and accessories. Or you can have a sort of reception open where you have your stall and then people can come up to you and have a chat. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of problems that come with online sort of environments where anonymity is a weapon that people use to be able to do things that might not be appropriate or acceptable. However, there's demonstrations and examples of good services that have filtering tools. So for example, this is turning into a very wide person. VRChat has a lot of filtering tools. So they have both mute options and they also have block options.
Feeling that like something's off, so you'll start to run away and notice a lonely girl in a corner there. You'll go up to her, randomly just start breathing really loudly, and she'll look at you and raise her hand. And you know you're about to get blocked when her hand is raised towards you, so it just takes a moment and she's gone. Look at that, just like that, your breathing and existence now caused you to get blocked by a former VRChat member. Good job, team.
So if you do find someone that you're not particularly fond of, you can absolutely implement similar strategies and be able to filter the type of environment that you want to create. So let's talk about something else quite important, which is money. How does this business idea make its money? The first thing is that it's supposed to be mimicking the Artist Alley experience. So a lot of the money is going to be coming from the artists themselves, trying to sell merchandise. There's also, in an online space, an opportunity for advertising. So that includes marketing, taking up any digital real estate, getting views. YouTube would be a pretty good example of how this can be employed. We also have entry fees, so tickets and people arriving at the scene, because when you go to an artist alley, it's almost like you have a gallery full of artists and you just get to browse and see everything that's on display. Employees. So if you go through a service like Upwork or Fiverr, people are selling their skills and other people want to hire. So for example, let's look at selling. This one, we can do commission basis. everything that's sold, maybe you take a percent. I know there's some websites, I think like Artfinder, which take like 30%, which is crazy. But you can take commissions on every piece of artwork or merchandise that's been sold and just take a small portion of the profits they make. And this will be really effective because if you prioritize this method, then the only way for the business to make money is to help the artists make money. And so all of the business decisions or the incentives are geared towards something that's going to benefit the people that are actually using the platform. The other one is advertising, which is going to be pretty effective. I think it's probably the most appropriate model, especially if you're bringing in large numbers and the whole point is to bring in lots of viewers that might not be able to participate financially. Ticketing visitors, maybe you want to do an entry fee for a certain amount of time, or if you have an event that takes place over a course of several days, you can be able to ticket according to those events. And let's say we get too many artists and we have so many artists that it becomes difficult to actually categorize them into a single day. That's fine. You can stretch it out. You can have different genres. So maybe you have a Halloween theme, maybe some artists specialize in painting. And so you have an entire painting gallery set up just for them. And then the other one is employees. So maybe there's a dedicated section of artists, programmers, audio designers, musicians that the business actually contracts, and they're used as like the go-to guys for all of these types of things. So you have these specialists that operate with the people that are trying to establish their shops. And so they're able to use them as they please if they are financially willing and benefit from those available services. Now, a key aspect that I'm really interested in is the idea of creative flexibility. So in the gaming engine that we're currently using for this prototype, it's called Godot, has the capability to run 2D and 3D scenes. So if you want to, or depending on what you specialize in, maybe you're an expert in pixel art and you want to create a little shop which demonstrates your ability to create pixel art environments. And so you can put all your assets in, you can make nice crunchy bit sound effects, complete freedom to design it however you like, set it up however you like, create an experience for the customers and for the people coming in to view your place. Now, if you were specializing in 3D, that's totally acceptable as well. There is capabilities for people to do 3D environments. And so maybe you want to show off your ability to 3D model, or maybe you have a physical presence and so you want to put yourself in the actual environment and, you know, walk around as a 3D physical person. That's totally available as well. The world is your oyster in this type of environment, and the only real motivation is just whether or not you can set up what you're looking to create. So if you want to sell keychains, you can sell keychains. If you want to promote your music, you can promote your music. Only limit is yourself and what you're willing to create. Obviously there'll be some, guidelines in terms of what can and can't be done. Can't have people uploading 50 gigabyte documents of foxes and crashing the entire server because of that. And so this is an artist specific environment. So at the moment I have just a few platforms where this is currently running. There's also YouTube, which at the moment is at AstraEng. Because the Artist Alley idea is kind of universal, then you should be able to interact and collaborate with people from all over the world. So for example, if it's the same in Australia, then it's likely going to be the same in Malaysia, in Japan, in Korea, in China, Philippines, Indonesia, all of those sorts of areas. I'm trying to remember what this whole wacky world looks like. And if it gets big enough, we can expand over to the east and the west, over to America. And it also gives you an opportunity to bridge the gap in the sort of economic divide. In Australia, a single AUD can get you 3 ringgit in Malaysia. And what I noticed when I was walking around is that an artwork that features a particular character with a particular art style in Australia might sell for $15. Red as an example, that's maybe $2 to $3. And in Malaysia, that same artwork may cost 15 ringgit. The difference is that 15 AUD is actually equal to 45 ringgit, which is a crazy disparity in, you know, what that can mean in terms of value, wealth, and what you're able to buy. So in terms of the economic global gap, I'm not going to say that this is the end-all solution, but it might be some way to assist and benefit from engaging with people in other economies. So yeah, I'll be continuing to update the project as I go. Let me know if you have any feedback. I would greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you later.